Hey, good morning. So, where we left off in the origin story of it, high school. All right, I'm enrolled in Catonsville High School. It's a suburb just outside of Baltimore, if you don't know. And I know at that point I was in a very close knit social clique of like the goth kids, the freaks, if you will, punk rock, rock and roll. I had already developed a sense of fashion that was alternative. I made a lot of my own clothes because the poverty of it all forced me to go ahead and make the things that I wanted. Like Hot Topics hadn't even really popped off yet. It existed, but I didn't have access to it. We were doing most of our shopping at the thrift store. So my mother, who was a crafter, she was a maker, had given me a lot of examples on how to utilize the crafts, sewing, painting, things like that, to kind of create a world of my own. And so by the time I got to high school, I had started to really pull away from what was like normal, popular, fashionable. And me and my small group of friends really did live in our own little world. And thanks to some of their parents who gave me safe places to really explore that outside of my own home, because my mother was still doing daycare out of the house, and I didn't want to be around all the babies. I didn't want to conform to her idea of what was a good life. And so I was out of the house more than I was at home, and exploring not just the fashion and music, but the substances, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that became my world from probably 8th grade up until about 11th grade, about 15 years old, when I got myself into legal situations where I got arrested for trespassing, controlled dangerous substance, and a concealed weapon. And it sounds bad the way that the charges are written out, but literally I was at an empty house that we called the Grody. I was reminded of this story. We were awful. We trashed this house. And so the police show up one day, and we're there, shouldn't be there, and I happen to have weed and knives on me. And when I got arrested, I collected these charges. And the cops took me in. Mom came and picked me up, and I faced just what could have been a slap on the wrist, some community service hours, and a little bit of probation where they wanted to monitor me. But little Justin wasn't having any of that. I basically decided that I could do whatever I wanted and ignored the consequences that were in front of me. And by 11th grade, the principal pulled me in just a couple months into my junior year and told me that if I missed any more school, that I'd be expelled. And I had the audacity to tell her that I wasn't coming every day, and that was the last day that I extended school. Walked out of that meeting and never went back to the high school. Truth and love, folks.